writing your own death song, that's okay. There's other different ways. Um, there's going to be a lot of choosing here. Um, Mecca, I'm not using Mecca as, some of you, this will be custom, I guess, let me put it that way, to you. There's not going to be a form of doing this, like what you find out with a lot of churches and a lot of other things out there. They have a preset way, guidelines of how to do things, and that's it. As you notice with Native Americans, there never really was any set guideline. There was something universal. And, that one thing you'll find out always is the medicine wheel. Um, that's almost universal with Native Americans. Some Native Americans used eagle feathers, some didn't. So who's to say what is Native American and what isn't? Well, I'm Native American. Um, so you might have your own version of Mecca. I'm not saying that you have to be Muslim or Sikh or whatever that religion or way of life is, but your version, kosher. What's your form of kosher? With us, it was praying on the food and the spirit plate. That was our so-called kosher concept or principle. But anyway, we'll get more into that down the road. Next page here. Hopefully this one, I can keep this under 20 minutes here. Now we're talking about the system and what we're going to be needing here. Protocols. There's the council, which is me, Pat, and Roger. I don't know exactly what the salaries are going to be, but we're going to be anti-commercial, meaning there's not going to be no profiteering. One time or another I made, I indicated that people should not make more than $100,000 a year. Not that that means that you should make $100,000 a year, but here I don't think nobody's ever going to make $100,000 a year. That's a cap, because once that kicks in, the moment somebody kicks in with profit, then their whole mindset has changed into no longer being spiritual. They're after the dollar. They're after something, and hopefully we can change people's persona about that. We're going to need office personnel. And then under the office, or whatever you want to call that little unit that's going to take care of everything, below that we're going to need a committee of maybe some trusted servants. I've heard it called a rotary committee or rotating committee, and these people should come from the congregation, should not get paid, but all their expenses be paid for. I don't think they'd need much. But the day-to-day would be ran by office personnel and perhaps Roger, Pat, and me, if any one of them wants to get in there. Anyway, the medicine wheel is another part of this integration here. Minimum of 3 representatives of each color of man, whether it's red, black, yellow, or white. And therefore we can get a general consensus of everything. It might be sounding discriminant, but it's not. It might sound racist, but it's not. We're honoring the 4 colors of man, and at the same time the directions and what have you. And maybe I'll make another video about just the medicine wheel if anybody has any questions about that. Then finally, the other one that we would need is non-government organization, or what is called as a NGO. And the reason I'm saying that is because at a UN level, there's NGOs. Red Cross is an NGO, and they help United Nations make better decisions. And as it pertains to sacraments, all of them, including marijuana, peyote, what have you, sometimes other nations need direction on this. Yes, it's great to go out there and petition and make the whole world see things your way. Here's one example: the Rainbow Coalition or something like that. Where they were like, let's not kill whales anymore, and they, United Nations listened, and they made United Nations made laws against that. But what happened is that without indigenous input, there was a lot of Alaskan tribes that their whole life was centered around the whale. The lifestyle, hunt and everything else. And once they were prohibited from doing that, that tribe suffered. The women went into prostitution, the men went into drugs and alcohol, and it totally decimated many of them out there. You know, so we got to be cautious as to what we do, and that's why we need the four colors of man in on this to help us out and get that opinion and advice out to United Nations like that. Um, United Nations was composed by a lot of people, and they made drugs illegal. Then, without ever, without ever having any form of indigenous input, and a lot of indigenous people, like in 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 the cocaine area, suffered because they never did cocaine the way it is now. Powdered and processed. They would, for eons, time immemorial, they sucked on the coca leaves. They had their little lime bag and their little stick, and all day long they'd chew on the coca leaf. Qantas Parker, what was it, Comanche or something like that. Um, he had a little peyote button bag with him all times. He was on peyote all the time. There was no stories of him being a bad, addictive person, but he had it with him all the time. Did he use it all the time? I don't know. But evidently, in order for him to have a little peyote bag, it was probably important to him. And a lot of you are going, well, there's a certain way of doing peyote, and then there isn't. There is no wrong way of doing it other than, doing it for yourself, and that's it. You have, I forget the name of that, Native American church, and they're incorporated out of Oklahoma. Yeah, they follow a certain way, and that's the northern way. Um, when you go down to Mexico, there's different ways of doing this. And part of me, my mother was a mestiza, and that's a half breed. European and Spanish and Mexican Indian. So sitting here, I'm 75% indigenous to this land here. And they had different ways of doing things. And up here, you'll see a lot of medicine men and not too many medicine women. As you go south, you'll see more medicine women than medicine men. So, what I'm doing here is practicing the religion of my forefathers. Actually, all of them, from Mexico all the way up to almost Idaho. And that whole entire land is what they call Nahuatl. I don't know if I'm saying it right or wrong, but it's Nahuatl. And, a lot of people will say, well, that's an Aztec word. See, when you look at the Aztecs, their creation story is that they came up from somewhere north. And me being a Shoshone, a Dosui Shoshone, white knife band of Shoshones, or what is known as Western Band of Western Shoshone, I don't know, I did a little bit of study where the Aztecs probably came from us. Here's in Texas and all that area near the border, when they make salsas, they got the molcajete, and then they got the metate. The metate is the hand grinding stone. Down there they call it metate, and that's an indigenous word down there. Up here they call it metat, M-E-T-A-T. There's no e at the end, metate. And here they only use metat. That off the bat, almost 35, 40 years ago, that told me that this whole entire area came from one source. And up here with Shoshones and Paiutes, we came from here, and that's it. We didn't come from somewhere else and go somewhere else. The Aztecs indicate that they came from up north, and the only closest associated language that was associated to them would be us. And our creation story says we came from here, and we didn't go nowhere else. And there's no paperwork on that, and unfortunately it's not in a library. But if you need more proof, you can scale our walls and climb our mountains and look at the petroglyphs. That's where our history is written on. So Um, anyway, we will be needing that kind of help. And once again, feel free to pause it and write your questions down and proceed from there if I have not answered them. I like to go all over the place on things like this. Um, the last thing I'd like to talk about, and it's something that's necessary, it's the coffers of swav. Um, and I use the coffer, coffer. Coffer is like a coffin. Coffin is what you put a dead body in there. Or coffer is when you change the word like that, it still has the same meaning as a box or something. But a coffer, as it pertains to this, has to deal with financial finances, currency, whatever. A coffer is anything, a treasure chest. Let me put it that way. What you put in the treasure chest. You put diamonds, you put pearls, you put used vehicles, you put cash. That's kind of like a safe. Um, to some extent, we're going to need current flow to have operating expenses and the salaries. Since we're going to keep on doing this, since this has deviated me from doing other things and partaking more and more in this, I would like to see some form of an income. And once again, none of us should ever make in more than 100,000 a year. It doesn't mean that we're supposed to make that much either. I'm comfortable with 35, 40 grand a year maybe. Um, Now the Trusted Servant Console, they're going to have to, all expenses with them. The medicine wheel will be the same, all expenses with them. The NGO and the office personnel for the NGO, that would be something that have to be discussed with. And as soon as these committees come into play, we need these committees in there to assist us. Because the three of us, me, Roger, and Pat, can't always see everything all the time. Like I said before, we need lawyers and CPAs, a webmaster for sure. The coffers, there should be a prudent reserve financially of 3 months. Um, and so we can at least see down the road on things, bills can be paid. Um, and a retainer of legal counsel in case we do need that. And we're always going to need that living in a commercial state like United States of America. So I know I just threw this out there real quick, real fast, but down the road, the second video, I think I'm going to be in front of my